Welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Nate Woods. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach Peachtree, and today I'm joined by Chris Doane, who's the president and executive creative director of Crezent. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about his business, his journey to business ownership, some challenges he's faced, and look what it's really like to run and operate his business. If it's your first time on the channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when we drop new interviews like this. And Chris, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Nate, thanks so much. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. If you would just give us kind of a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about your business.
So I've served in marketing roles and creative direction and so many other roles related to marketing big business, small businesses for 30 plus years now. So when I exited college, I worked for a number of larger companies. The last company I worked for was a publicly traded insurance company in Atlanta, and I worked at that organization for almost 10 years. And it was about 17 years ago when I actually just decided that I love this environment. I do not like commuting from my town to Atlanta, and I've been telling myself for years that, hey, I want to start my own organization, start my own business. It was a little bit of a milestone thing for me too, because I was approaching the ripe old age of 40, and I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it now. And so I actually took the leap. I was in a position with my wife working and in a position where I could do that. And I decided, I saw an opportunity in the southwest area of Atlanta, and we all have seen the arteries in Atlanta, how they have built out or developed from 75 north, 85 north, 75 south, 85 south from the southwest side of Atlanta down into Newnan towards West Point seemed to be one of the corridors that maybe had not been covered up with development, but you could see it coming. And for me, I started my business sort of strategically because I said, hey, I want to start this thing that I've been talking about forever. And I want to be in a position to take advantage of the growth that we're going to experience in our area in Atlanta. So that was 17 years ago.
Absolutely. Sounds like perfect timing because Newnan's really exploded since then.
The growth has come. It has come, and it's all of us in this area. I think we feel like there's a tidal wave that has hit us, and it doesn't stop at Newnan either. It's all the way to LaGrange. It's all the way to, it's West Point. We know West Point is growing, and even I feel like the area between Newnan and Columbus is even beginning to close in a little bit with opportunity, or at least organizations that move to our area. So my experience had been for 10 years with that organization that I previously worked for, had been in corporate communications types of functions, marketing, web development, social media, for example, was in its infancy at that point. But I had the opportunity to spend 10 years in that environment and certainly learn a lot of principles and practices, best practices, particularly not only from a digital marketing point of view, but we still leaned on some traditional marketing type of channels and ways to deliver content in that case too. And what I felt like we would be strong in as a digital marketing agency was to say, hey, I know you're a small business. I know you're a medium-sized business. Like, you're a business of whatever size you are. We bring some experience from a corporate environment, and there's absolutely no reason that a smaller business can't appear corporate and appear professional and maybe look a little bit bigger than they actually are, so that they have the best chance of reeling in prospects for whatever product or service they sell. So that worked out okay, and we've had the opportunity not only to work with a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, but we also continue to have a few larger corporate clients, not only in Peachtree City, but in Atlanta, and still have a couple of them that are even out of state. So that's the beautiful thing about being in digital marketing is if if you and I can get on, you as a customer or prospect and I, if we can get on a virtual call, the majority of tasks that we would fulfill for you as a company or the owner of a business, we can do some of those virtually. We don't have to be in the same room together. It is nice to meet for a cup of coffee and shake hands, but we can assist businesses all over the place, and that's a cool thing to be in that spot. So,
absolutely. So, primarily for your business, who is the ideal client for you?
The ideal client is going to be the ideal client is going to be the organization that has decided that we can't get all of the marketing tasks done on a monthly basis by it being delegated to an admin assistant or the owner of the company in that case, where they decide, hey, we know this is a priority. We want to invest in this. We're not in a spot where we want to invest in a full-time asset to manage that. But we know we have a number of tasks that are a priority to our business to get visibility, to get our content, to demonstrate our expertise. And unfortunately, it kind of ends up being one of the lower priorities when you start balancing that with managing cash flow and managing payroll and managing your employees to actually get the project done, whatever that may be, or actually sell the product or that sort of thing. So it's that company, for example, I always use the example of managed IT. We know a lot of businesses will hire managed IT companies to actually help with basically keep an eye and actually manage the IT assets within that organization. But those same companies also will decide, well, I'm not ready to pay an IT asset a full-time salary plus benefits to do that. From a scale point of view, we don't have enough to either keep them busy, or we simply aren't ready for that particular asset to be added on. I call us a managed marketing service provider, where we are an outsourced provider of assisting those businesses that are in that spot. Now, for beyond those organizations to say, well, hey, we already have a marketing staff, we already have assets in hand, but we really want to take on this big project. They have enough assets in-house or in staff to handle the day-to-day, but to develop an e-commerce website or to develop a branding campaign, where it becomes a little bit more than they can actually handle in-house, we actually serve larger clients, a number of corporate clients, where we become the extra assets that those businesses need to actually take on bigger projects and then hand it back off to the internal staff. So we have both of those clients in our stable of clients, and some of those clients are long-term clients that we've had for 10, some of them 15 years, almost as long as we've been in existence. And that has been a great relationship. I feel like it's been a great relationship for them, and it's been a great relationship for us for sure too. So.
Absolutely. So what would you say makes you unique? Why would your top tier clients say, we went with Chris?
I think I hope most of them would consider our responsiveness, just as if we were in the office next door, our responsiveness to perhaps ad hoc type challenges that come up in any office environment, even big corporate marketing departments, regardless of how much planning actually is put in place to decide or discern what we're going to do next year and what campaigns are we going to put together and what are we going to build out for next year. There's still things that come along, either seasonal or more ad hoc type marketing and promotional stuff that comes about in any environment, and I feel like we're responsive to that. I also feel like I'm not any different than any of many other different types of companies. I'm not different in the way that I don't sort of survey what other digital marketing firms are out there and what their background is and what they have to offer. And for so many of the firms in my space, the punch list of services we provide are all very similar. Where I do see something perhaps that separates us from the competition is that corporate background and that corporate communications, marketing, web development background in a very structured, professional environment. And that's what we bring to the table. That I'm not saying that all of the firms that we compete in the same space don't have some of that background, but I think that does separate us a little bit in that, and just the way we actually go about our work and the finished product that we deliver to them.
Absolutely.
And again, I've had some smaller clients come to us, and they said, "Hey, I'm great in the particular industry I am. I'm a small guy though. I'm competing against much larger companies. Can you make me appear to be on the same playing field with those large corporations from a branding point of view, from a messaging point of view, and that sort of thing?" And our background, I think actually helps us prepare those organizations to look like they're legitimate, but we make them appear like they're a player on the field when perhaps they are a small organization compared to some of the Goliaths in their industry. So,
absolutely. So I love talking to marketing guys because there's tons of insight that you can give us.
right.
One thing I always ask business owners is what percentage of your monthly revenue are you devoting back to marketing? So you can answer that for yourself, but even better, what would you recommend a small business owner set aside for marketing?
Well, I do follow trends. I do follow recommendations. I think it probably changes a little bit. It changes from year to year based on different factors for sure. I think it's a little bit unique to different industries too. How much of as you know, in your business, organizations that actually establish great relationships and have a really good referral base, referring customers, clients, partners, whatever. Their marketing is a little bit different than just straight out, you not knowing me from anyone and me trying to get in front of you. So I have heard numbers anywhere from 10 to 20%.
Yep. I'm curious. I've seen a trend recently. So, really coming out of COVID, there was such an influx of money in the economy and people were spending money very easily. A lot of businesses didn't have to do a lot of marketing for the past 2 or 3 years. And some of them that I'm talking to now are all of a sudden realizing those leads are harder to come by. They're not getting the people coming in the door, calling in. Have you noticed that? And, do you see any truth in it?
I have noticed that you're exactly right. When there was a stimulus, which it was a stimulus package that was more or less not only providing funding for some of these activities, and even the stimulus package impacted businesses and if it were ARPA funding or payroll type fundings. We know. I think businesses were a little bit more comfortable and maybe they were a little more comfortable in not necessarily having to compete as much for those leads. So I have seen that. I would hope that, I mentioned I won't mention the company by name, but the publicly traded company I used to work for, they would always ask the chairman of the board, the CEO, they would say, okay, when business gets tight and when business gets tight and when it seems like it's harder to bring business in, what is your approach to that? And that chairman of the board, he would always say, well, that's the time to market more. He also, since we were a publicly traded company, he was the company, we were always buying our stock back. And if the economy was slower and our stock price was actually down, they would say, oh, are you concerned? And he would say, well, no, that's an opportunity to buy more of our stock back.
Get it at a discount.
Exactly. It's smart business, right? Mm-hmm. So I think what we have seen, and through 17 years, there's always a pendulum to things. We see this in financing, we see this in home prices, we see this in interest rates. There's always a pendulum in business, and we've had some, I won't call them there's some people call them recessions, some people call them slower economy, whatever. But we've gone through those, a number of those in the last 17 years. There were the businesses that chose to tighten up and get very conservative. A lot of those businesses fell by the wayside and were a casualty of the recession because they didn't market themselves. They took a passive approach, and the ones that were actually more aggressive and actually basically invested in in their marketing and gaining more visibility in front of the limited prospects, those businesses actually were the ones that survived and came out of those slower times actually even stronger. So right now, what we are noticing, and it's one thing related to marketing. We are noticing that the leads maybe are a little bit harder to come by, prospects, that sort of thing. I always recommend, well, hey, start leaning on your referral partners, build up a good referral network. We are noticing a different type of marketing that a lot of businesses are doing too, that is actually a post-COVID thing. Is there are a lot of businesses that have enough business, but they are struggling with having enough human resources, staffing, to actually take care of the business they have in hand.
Mm-hmm.
And we have noticed the trend towards this is a type of marketing, but it's slightly different. We have a number of businesses that actually have began utilizing us to actually market their company as somewhere individuals would like to come and work.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to attract that best talent.
So you can turn up the volume, you can have all the business coming in you want, but then if you can't turn around and actually take care of that business in hand, then you're in a vulnerable spot too. And so it's there's two parts to that, I think. And we recently and it's gotten, not only has it gotten very competitive for leads, but we all know that it's gotten very competitive for talent. And they go hand in hand. So.
Absolutely. So you've been doing this for a while now, 17 years in business at the time that we're doing this interview. As you look back on that journey so far, has there been a memorable roadblock or a hurdle that you had to overcome, and how did it impact your business?
Well, I think a lot of business owners, when they initially get into business, they're really good at some discipline. If it's marketing, if it's roofing, if it's, whatever it may be. And they're really good at that. And perhaps they either see the opportunity, they have a passion for it, whatever it may be. I think some of the initial roadblocks of starting a new business is there's a lot of other things that you've never been introduced to. Dealing with payroll taxes. You have not been introduced to necessarily to a mature way to analyze cash flow, and if you're actually in a good spot or you're not in a good spot. If you're just watching what your bank balance, that's not managing cash flow and being aware of exactly how well or not well you're actually doing. And some of those things, maybe they were not roadblocks, but they were things that it took some time to actually catch on to those things. I had some questions early on, probably 14 to 15 years back. And I guess this is a good time to make a plug, but I actually worked with an action coach for about it wasn't a long-term engagement, but it was for 3 to 6 months, where we actually looked at the measurables of the business to actually figure out where we were. And if it were, heck, let's check this thing out. Let's look under the hood of this thing and see if it's a business worth continuing,
Yeah.
Now, we discovered, good news is we discovered that, things were good. And the opportunity was just wide open in front of my business. But there's a lot of stuff that business owners, again, if they're really specialists in a certain discipline, they're really good at that. But there's a lot of other things that they have to either discover, or someone has to help them along to actually become a mature business.
Absolutely.
And it's taken a while.
Yeah, I like to say that business ownership is its own profession. It's its own set of skills that's different than, whatever you got into business for in the first place.
Absolutely. And but it's, you also recognize the things maybe you thought were more important or critical. It gives you a way to prioritize the things that are critical to the success, and then the other things that are nice or maybe they contribute a little bit. Maybe they aren't as important as you thought they were. So, but yeah, it was. It's been a good ride so far. I hear statistics too about, if you've been in business for more than 5 years, that's a good number, or 10 years or whatever. I don't know how true that is. Every day or every week, whatever you parse it down to is maybe one of the other roadblocks, or the only roadblock I probably have faced over time is you're constantly you just have to constantly stay at it to make it successful. And whereas when you're in a corporate job, and I'm not saying I ever did this in my last job, but you have some days where you can relax a little bit. And whereas for when you're running your own business, hopefully you get it to a point where you can relax a little bit, but it takes a commitment. And some days, perhaps others are like me. Some days I don't feel like being in a commitment. But if you're really committed to it, you'll ride through those times, and it will be okay.
Yeah.
So
perfect. So now I want to get into a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So just quick top of head answer for each.
Yes, sir.
Number one, what is the key to success for you?
The key to success for me, ironically, maybe it's not ironic, but the key to success for me really kind of relates to what the point I was just making is my business is very important to me. It's my livelihood. But what is also just as important is actually it being part of a balance of what I'm involved with, and a business, a personal, a life balance of things. So what my business has done for me is it actually has given me a livelihood so that I could turn around and also focus on perhaps causes or other types of things that are very important for me to making an impact on my community or my personal life or that sort of thing. So we always hear the typical thing. This isn't rapid fire, but we hear about work-life balance. I think the success of your business, the success of your personal life is really, really determined by your work-life balance. That's the point.
Perfect. What is one book or podcast you've listened to recently that you would recommend to other business owners?
So I have, I'm going to go really old school and way back. Now, I listen to a lot of podcasts these days. In fact, we have gotten into the business of actually producing podcasts for other individuals and that sort of thing. But there's some older books, the Power of Positivity. I think it was an Andrew Carnegie book. And there's been so many podcasts and so many things done over the last 75 to 100 years about the same thing. There is and I would say that book. I know I read that when I was a teenager because I had a parent that had it on the shelf somewhere that it was probably 30 years old at that point. But I think it takes a lot of positive thought and a positive mindset to really succeed. And regardless if it's Andrew Carnegie or if it's someone brand new today telling us all this on a podcast, I think it's still appropriate today.
Awesome. So before we get into my final question of the day,
Yes,
what's the best way for viewers to learn more about you or your company? What's the best way to get in contact?
Well, the best way is to check us out on the web at crezent.com. That's CREZENT.com. We're certainly on social, on LinkedIn, Facebook, but Instagram. But Crezent provides a good summary of what we specialize in. We don't go too deep into our client base, but it's got a lot of good content on there that demonstrates how we can help other businesses.
Awesome. My last question for you today is, what is most inspiring as you move forward in the business?
We are always, and I say we, myself and my team, I have a small team. We are always, from day one, we are a fan of someone we're going to begin working with, and we are a fan of our existing clients. I'm talking fan, almost fan short for fanatic. We want to be there and rooting them on and cheering them on and be excited for them as if we were at a college football game. And part of that is not only being there and rooting them on, but seeing them actually realize benefits from what we're providing. That is very self-fulfilling for us to actually see positive results coming from what we deliver to them. That gets me very fired up, like a fan. I'm a UGA alumni, so that gets me fired up just like a Georgia football, a Georgia Bulldog football game. We have a lot to cheer about right now. So I want to cheer for every client the same way I do when I'm yelling at the TV or yelling when I'm at Sanford Stadium. So
awesome. Love it. Thanks for joining me, Chris. Go Dogs.
Thanks so much.